Hello there. Good morning. How are you? So I'm going to give a trigger warning here before I start. I am Paul, by the way. The title of this live is basically, how do our beliefs and programs around our sexuality ripple into all facets of our life? We are human beings. We are the product of sexuality and pleasure as human beings, and we live in a program that for some unknown or unexpressed reason wants to suppress us from being in pleasure, happiness, joy, and having the needed effects of those things in our body. We create oxytocin, serotonin, all the stuff that we take pills for depression can be created by being loving and in intimacy with another person. So why did they suppress all this stuff? Well, I'll tell you right now, societal norming does not want us to be happy or in joy or anything of the sort. It wants to basically suppress us, shame us, and tell us we are bad for having feelings towards another person. And then we'll have things like religion that basically says you'll go to hell if you share intimacy or sexuality with another person before marriage. You must be bonded and attached to that person in this very unaware experience of marriage. One of these days I'll do a live on that, because the underpinnings of marriage means something very different than what we're told. So let's start here. Our sexuality is far from innocent and pure now, based on programming in TV, religion, from our parents, etc. It's not a good thing. You can't touch yourself. You can't feel good. You can't do anything. But if it's so dirty, it's actually been documented that babies in the womb, before even birth, will touch themselves for pleasure. If that's about as innocent as you can get as a child. And then the minute we come out into the world, it's dirty, it's ashamed, and you're going to get a disease from it, and you're going to hurt somebody, and you're going to create a baby or other things which put it behind this wall. And I'll speak from my experience, because that's the only perspective I can have. I can speak from perspective I've seen through other people, but let's just start with mine. So I grew up in a Catholic family, very Catholic, and in a family where you couldn't even use the names of the genitals. There was no P and V. And even now I'm going to not suppress myself, but I am on a social media platform. The word that was acceptable was peanut for the boy and mini for the girl. So up until 10 or 12 years old, that's what it was called, because my parents were ashamed of that. My parents, like most parents, were ashamed of being naked around their kids. I know there's lots of parents out there that aren't. But the actual act of being naked was so shamed. Get some clothes on. What are you doing running around without your pants on? Or whatever, which little boys and little girls may do. So from those first early stages, it wasn't okay. I was having baths with my little sister and my little brother, and we could see all this stuff, and it was efficient for my parents or whatever. And when we noticed that there was a difference between our bodies or whatever, we were asked, and that's the strange response that we got. So I could go into my adult life and not know that. Thankfully, there's sexual education and other things, which does other things to us, that taught me the actual names of them, but didn't actually teach me about the act of connecting with another, of intimacy, not the intimacy that we call sex. Intimacy, about vulnerability and connection. Sex was never about that. It was about an act of that I should be ashamed about and avoid, and it's only for procreation. Well, who taught that? Well, the church taught that, at least in my awareness. So school taught sex to be all about sexually transmitted diseases. If you know what disease is, that's a negative vibration. So basically, if you talk and suggest to a young person that they should be in a negative vibration about things, well, guess what? You're creating it. You're putting that possibility out there. And what is a disease? It's basically make it impossible for you to have sex with another person unless you transmit to them your low vibration. And a lot of what sex is described about is how we dump our feelings into other people and how we remain attached and all this kind of stuff. That's a very big symptom of density and low vibration. So we have this program replaying in everything we do, in all we talk about societally, etc. Now, I'm going to explain a few things. So, one of the greatest books ever about business was something called Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. Basically, in that book, before it was torn to shreds, it talked about how our sexuality is instrumental in creating in our world. It can create babies. It can also create abundance. It can also create passion, joy, excitement, etc. It keeps us in a high vibration. There is a thing in sacred sexuality called sex magic. It's magic with a CK at the end, where two people, or even one, can join together and put the intention of the release of sexual energy with another, passionate, loving, etc., into an intention, creating something, creating a business. Parts of the book, Think and Grow Rich, talked about that, but there was a whole big movement of taking sexuality out of everything for a very long time. I was actually watching the series 1923 the other day, and they were parading a woman who was a prostitute or an escort around, and she'd been tarred and feathered. And the whole community of these women were around keeping people from being sexual. I'll remember the word they used for it, but it was quite hard to witness, because these women were all up in arms and that somebody could be sexual and open and that kind of stuff and make that their career, and they basically tarred and feathered that person. So she was covered in black tar and feathers all over, and just shaming the shit out of somebody for being in their sexual power, using that as a career or a way to make money or whatever, instead of being ashamed about it. But it's happening all around us. Look at things like cam girls and other things where they go on and they make money, and it's a full-time career. I see it in couples as well. There's even men that do it. So sexuality is an inherent part of being human. Oh, well, I think they used abstinence as one of the words that they used in the show. I'll remember what the other one is shortly. But who gains by us not being sexual? Definitely not us. And then to put memes out in the world and stories out in the world that says you're going to get a disease and you're going to get the negative emotions of your partner and their hooks and their attachments to you or whatever, is completely possible, is way more possible the minute that meme exists. And then do you think people are going to hide in fear from wanting to be the natural pull of their body or their desire or whatever, and they're going to have to defeat it every time inside of themselves because they're afraid that these bad things would happen? But we haven't been trained on these things. You can hold on to the negative shit of another person being sexual with them because two bodies merge in that act. And that's going to happen with a friendship. It doesn't have to be just from sex. If you have no sovereign boundaries and you basically let people shit all over you or merge with your energy or go into the aura or give them hugs and love them when they're energy vampires sometimes. Those kind of things that are discussed in memes will happen. It's not specific to sexuality, it's specific to the human experience of connecting deeply with a person, hugging them, kissing them. You can go into a person's aura and you can pick up their negative vibes right then and there. It has nothing to do with sex. It's just way more intimate and deep when that happens. So if we believe these things are stuck in us and we're attracting people that are low vibration, guess what? Your whole reality is going to be pulled down. It's a belief structure. It's a program that we're running in, when I can tell you right now, the act of orgasmicness in our body as a human being will clear our central channel, clear our energy, raise our vibration, put us in a meditative state in a very short period of time. And I'm not saying go and find somebody to share a bunch of time with right here and right now. Do that for yourself. If we can get away from this sin, supposedly, of giving ourselves pleasure. It was, for 2,000 years, it was a stonable offense in some religions to be able to give yourself pleasure. Why would that be? This thing that releases oxytocin, serotonin, all these high vibrational energies in your body. It literally released DMT into your brain in very small amounts to heal you, to clear your nervous system, to clear the suppression, clear the programs, make you aware of what you're stuck in. Who wins by taking that away from us? It's kind of quite ugly once you understand how important sexuality is to our body as a reset of our nervous system, a reset of our discomfort, and all that cortisol that's stuck in your body is instantly dissolved as these serotonins and oxytocins and epinephrines and all these things that are essential to a healthy human being and to the passion of a human being. Have you ever been passionate about something? Why do they call it passionate? And then at the same time say sexuality and loving and kissing is passionate. Well, I've been passionate about my business. I'm passionate right now. Is this sexual at all? No, it's my creation energy. Our creation energy and the expression of our creation energy is our sexual energy. So if things aren't working out in your life, how's your sexuality with yourself? And I'm not saying run out and find a partner. That's going to solve everything. If anything, that'll make it 100 times worse. But what's your relation to your own personal sexuality? Do you spend time with yourself? Do you love yourself? Do you go do things that are self-loving? I'm not even talking about touching yourself at this point. Go into the pool, go into the hot tub, go into spend time around people that make you feel better. And then, only then, do we start to make that about me. Do I feel love outside to the world, to my kids, to my family, maybe wife or husband? Do I send that to myself, or do I give it all to them? To fill them so that they give some back, and then there's this exchange and this attachment and the hooks and codependency. So what I'm trying to say is our sexual expression and our sexuality as a human being and our ability to have pleasure is our birthright. And who's taken it from us, and through what stories and what programs and what societal shaming and what stories on TV and whatever. And how much on TV, when you see sexuality expressed, is it just like hot, basically lustful interactions with another person? It's not about that. It's about building connection, building trust, looking in their eyes, starting to build a rapport, talking and being vulnerable. And from that place, everybody opens. And then they share parts of themselves, and they open, and they expose themselves, literally. I'm not talking about being naked. I'm talking about opening their heart so that there can be a heart connection. Sex is not about genital to genital contact. Sex is about connecting at a heart level, connecting visually, connecting, looking at each other, sharing energies, vibrations, movement of energy, feeling it flow through our body. How many of you is sexuality at that level at all? Or is it just a friction-based experience where one or the other may or may not have some kind of release or pleasure? Or is it all about creating babies only? It was never designed for that. It's an instrumental part of the human nervous system release. And without that self-regulation and that ability to regulate with another, and to have the tools and the abilities to be able to deal with whatever shows up, and in the heat of passion, in the heat of frustration, in all these kind of things, we're lost without it. So I'm suggesting, go down deep. Start looking. I'm looking at mine every day. I'm shamed on a regular basis. It's like, oh, I'm sexual towards a woman. Well, I can't do that. She might feel uncomfortable, and that would be energetically unsafe, and all this kind of stuff. I feel sexual towards women. No shame, no guilt. Because that's my birthright as a man. Doesn't mean I act on it. Doesn't mean I go up and suggest and make them feel uncomfortable. I feel sexual towards women. So just the acceptance of, I feel sexual towards women. Or if you're a woman and you feel sexual towards men, or vice versa, or whatever mixes there are out there, great. Own it. I follow this woman, Nicole Daydon. She started a company called One Taste and did the OM process. But she basically says, embrace your arousal. Because that's flow, that's connection to orgone energy or source energy or other things. You can go and study a guy named Wilhelm Reich, and he will tell you that orgone energy or source flow energy is our sexual energy. And I've seen a lot of discussion about it. Spirituality and sexuality are very similar. The twist on spirituality to control us has taken the two apart because they can't go. But the more you're in self-love and self-awareness and feeling good in your body, which can be sexuality, the more you're connected with your spirit and your self-love and who you are. I just love how the phone and stuff sends all these things and they stick. I can't see the people at the top. So orgone energy or orgasmic energy, look it up. Those orgone pyramids, the things they call orgone energy pyramids or whatever that transmute energy and stuff like that, were discovered by a guy named Wilhelm Reich, who was back in Freud's time. And he basically studied extremely deeply how sexuality normalized us and how it also repressed us and caused a lot of mental illness and problems in the body. He basically proved that you were 90 times more likely to be in jail or in a psychiatric ward if you did not have healthy expression of sexuality. He actually called it healthy expression of orgasm. So basically, orgasm is critical to clearing stuff out of our body, and the repression of society wants to keep that shame and guilt and pain and suffering that we have inside of us so that we stay small and we don't rise up. Because there's a bunch of people that are taking advantage of people that are in a low vibration. Church and state has been doing it for a very, very, very long time. And it keeps you small. It keeps you paying your bills, unhappy. When's the bad thing going to happen? We just basically live with ourselves kind of crippled over and we don't even know it. Sexuality is the path out. And I'm not saying go and share sex with as many people as you can or get off on it or other things. I'm saying go find a partner that wants the same. Have a discussion with them about what you love and what you don't love and what would feel good and what doesn't feel good. And then explore. That's what it was all about. That's what connection or feeling attracted to a person. There's something that can help you grow, move, feel pleasure, be happy, be excited, etc. And when it's all hidden around having to get married and attached to that person for the rest of your life before you can explore those things, there's something wrong. People are doing it anyways. They're exploring in college. They're exploring at 14 years old nowadays. That's when the average age of people losing their virginity happens. Is that healthy? Is that a safe mindset? Is that something that's self-loving? Probably not. So you're going to be surprised to find out how much sexuality is a part of your being. And in your outcomes and that kind of stuff. And you can say the two are different, but when you're not feeling happy, you're not feeling safe in your body, when you're not having your basic needs met as a human being, you are living from lack. And then it's like a virus. It goes out and people can feel that lack, and then they don't feel comfortable and all these kinds of things around each other because you're not honoring yourself. You're not loving yourself. You're living in lack and then expecting lack over and over and over again. It happens to me still every day. I'm not talking about this because I've got it all figured out. But I'm seeing dazzling rays of sunshine showing me in my meditation, in my awareness, etc., that I still carry that shame. And even if you don't believe the shame that your parents gave you or whatever, you still have a lineage that came from suppression, the Victorian age and other things where women had things up to here and right to her toes, and you couldn't show skin, you couldn't be sexual. Some of the English stuff that we got, things like what they call them nannies now or whatever, but there's another name that they had for them. But basically, governess, there we go. The governess, her whole job, go research it, you'll be surprised, that Sound of Music movie or whatever, she was a governess, basically was to keep young men from having wet dreams in the morning and basically being taken in sin by God by giving themselves pleasure. And they did some evil stuff. Go do some research, like putting lye soap on a young boy's genitals or whatever to burn them so that they didn't feel pleasure, or other things. These are all documented facts. Shaming them, using verbal shaming, etc. No wonder a lot of English men are very suppressed around sexuality. These are all truths. We don't want to hear them. Why would a parent shame their child so deeply about sexuality from birth when the societal norm was to keep your children pure and so they won't go to hell because they touch themselves? Who created that story? Don't even get me started about circumcision in North America and other things that are done. I've done a ton of research on this recently. There's a beautiful video called American Circumcision where it basically says the most sensitive part of a man's genitals is chopped off without anesthetic at the age of a day, 2 days. The movie shows it quite graphically that the child is strapped down with Velcro and his arms and legs so it won't move, and they basically cut off the most sensitive part of his genitals and then let him sit in that pain and suffering for days without anesthetic and just let it heal back and then start all over again. It's quite disgusting to see. I can speak from that perspective. I still remember that trauma inside my body because that was done to me, and that was done to most. There's something like 70 million American men that have had this. Yet in Europe, it's not a popular practice, and there's no evidence of less health issues and etc. So we're doing this thing that's been popularized that's supposedly healthy and good for all the wrong reasons. I thank God I did not do that to my boys. I have three boys. They have not had any health problems. The oldest is 23. So if what they say was true and all this kind of stuff, the video is quite huge. But just goes back to the program that basically suppresses our sexuality and takes it away from us and shames it and guilts it and makes it dirty. Why? Just ask yourself why. And if we can learn to stand in our sexual expression and to do that in consentful and respectful ways with other people, we have a path out. Yes, men want sexuality. They're open and direct about it or whatever. If you don't like that, then have a discussion. Don't shame them or whatever and say, hey, I prefer if we got to know each other a little bit before we had that discussion or whatever. Well, I'll explain to you right now, a man that's been through it 30 or 40 or 50 times and the woman has sent him away every time. He's looking for a little guidance on how to approach something that's pulling in his body and maybe pulling in the woman's body as well. But the shame story is playing. So what if we, instead of projecting shame in our hurt or wound, what if we just said, hey, I'm interested in that too, but I got to get to know you more. Here's what I'd like to find out and learn and all this kind of stuff. And yes, I'd like to explore that, but I believe that I need to do that in marriage or other things. Well, why do some women explore and find their way through, and then others are in marriage or whatever? How much is the program and how much is truth? As a man, it's a very strong pull. I don't think with that part of my body. Yes, when I was 19 or 20 or whatever, I maybe did. But now it's very different. Something that I want to welcome into my life with somebody that wants the same thing. And I can see it going into my life, into my passion for business and other things. And even sharing this at one point, this would have scared the hell out of me to even say all these things. But I want to welcome it into my life without this program on top of it. And I'm hoping by talking vulnerably and openly with you here, you may want the same. So it's your choice what you believe about this stuff. But I just honestly ask you, who's being aided by us being suppressed in our pleasure, feeling good in our life, and having joy? It's not us. It's something else. So take a look at that, and then go look at the video and ask yourself these questions. They'll set you free. And that freedom may be choosing, hey, I don't want to be sexual, but it will also set you free that you're actually making the choice from your self-worth, your self-love, your highest good. And then things can go from there. Maybe you can negotiate a relationship with a person where you want commitment, you want all these things, and you agree right from the beginning, not a marriage where a whole bunch of stuff is implied. Sexuality is implied in a marriage. I had a sexless marriage. I basically married a woman that lured me in with sex, but I terrified her because I was the reminder of her rape as a child by a Western man. She was Japanese. So I basically got projected on all this rape trauma, and I was meant to fix it or whatever, but nothing that I ever did caused that. I was most loving and careful and could have healed her, I now know, but she didn't ever want to talk about it. It was all indirect, and it was like, that shouldn't have happened when I was a kid, and giggling and calling me fat and other things. I've lost more weight since my marriage than I put on during my marriage because I was repressed and shamed. It was an easy way of avoiding looking at her trauma and calling it mine, which really hurt. And I basically would have died of a heart attack if I hadn't left my marriage at that time. Many, 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 many are stuck in these sadistic games and programs of people's traumas playing out and not being healed, and them projecting it on everybody else, and them not taking self-responsibility. To leave my marriage was self-responsibility. To allow sexuality in my life was self-responsibility. Well, guess what? You step out, and then you run into all these other shames and guilts. It's the most perfectly planned and perverted distortion of an essential element of being a human being is our expression of sexual energy and finding partner to share that with. And I'm not endorsing find multi partners, but people are doing it. 6 divorces, and they still haven't found the one that they want, and they're just shamed and guilted and painful and all. Marriage doesn't guarantee anything. Healthy sexuality begins far before marriage, and in communication and creating agreements, and I wouldn't say contracts because it's not like a legal piece of paper, but it's like a contract. It's like, hey, my love language is touch. Well, I want more touch in my life, and I would love that if that was sexuality and other things. You may not want that, but I'm just being crystal clear about that. But if I don't have that touch in my life, or whatever, and then I'm going to always feel my lack or other things. So I want to find a person that wants touch. Do you want touch? Do you like touch that progresses to sexuality and touching? And sexuality isn't about jumping on top of somebody and sticking it in or receiving it or whatever. Sexuality starts far before. It's the kisses, the touch, the looks, the maybe a gift, maybe a kind of sexy joke or something like that, where arousal is built and created and formed and danced with, and it's like a musical instrument of playing the other person's body. Is sexuality that for you? Do you know anything about the energetic side of sex, what microcosmic orbit is and other things where you move the sexual energy and it builds between two people, and bodies are designed to do this? If you're just laying there and receiving it or giving it and doing all the work, it was so funny the other day. The physical exertion that is sexuality, of thrusting as a man. I watched a woman that was wearing a device to be able to give pleasure to their partner, just like a man. And she was knackered within about 2 minutes. She couldn't breathe because the effort was a lot. This is sex as exercise as much as it is pleasure. I just look at that kind of stuff, and the stereotypes are so huge. This is only a thing a man can do, only a thing a woman can do. I won't get into more interesting acts of sexuality, but sexuality is our playground. How often do you get to play in that playground? And what is the wall that keeps you from playing in that playground? Shame, guilt, what would grandma think? What would my priest think? You're going to be surprised when you start to realize that. What would my friends think? And some of the most disgusting things I've ever seen is some of the slut shaming that women do to each other. They basically shame and guilt each other for those that have sex, done by those that don't have sex, that their rules and their shames are so hard, they basically make it, you're a slut, you're a dirty whore, or whatever. I've heard this in public, on shows, etc. None of it's true. I don't hear that same thing given to a man or whatever. It's like, okay, yeah, you're a player, you're a gigolo, you're a whatever, but it's not popularized. And definitely men that have sex and discuss that with their men friends or whatever, they're not shamed. I can say that much. So why is it different for women? So just sit with it. There's a lot to become aware of within ourselves that may not be serving us. And I'm seeing that in me. And that's why I'm sharing it here. And I hope it gives you the same awareness so you can start to choose you and become self-loving and change. Unwinding the program, new perspectives on reality, awakening you, call it whatever you like. I love you. Paul Hanrader here. Have a good day.